Alright, what's going on, guys? 2023 is a pretty big year for FromSoftware. We're coming up on the new release of Armored Core 6, a revival of a franchise that hasn't seen an entry in almost 10 years. But beyond that, the company itself is going through major changes, rapidly expanding to meet the new demand for their games, but also losing one of their key members that contributed an integral part of what made these games so special. And we're gonna break that down today. Also in the news is a new rumor claiming that Netflix is working on a Dark Souls anime. And this has absolutely blown up on the internet. But there's a crucial piece of information when it comes to this story that isn't being talked about, so we're going to take a deep look at that as well. And then finally, we have some very good news about Armored Core 6 that's painting a very positive outlook for the game's release, as well as a few other things. But if you enjoy all things FromSoftware and want to stay up to date on Armored Core 6 and Elden Ring, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And now let's get into the first story. The first thing we need to cover today is actually a huge deal if you're a FromSoftware fan, because this is going to affect every single Souls game going forward, and that is that Yuka Kitamura, the lead composer for Dark Souls 3, Sekiro, and Elden Ring, has decided to leave FromSoftware. And she put out a series of tweets a few days ago saying, "Thank you all for your continued support. Today I have an announcement to make. I have decided to leave FromSoftware, the company I worked for, and to start working new as a freelance composer this August. I would like to continue to express myself and game music through various genres of music. I hope you will look forward to my music in the future." So we have a lot to break down from this. Obviously, the music is a massive part of a FromSoftware game. It helps create that grand scale and the mystical feeling that we love so much. And the music that she composed had a very unique sound. And some of my favorites that she did were Renala's theme in Elden Ring, Emma's theme in Sekiro, and Gale's theme in Dark Souls 3, and I'll play a short snippet of all of those, so that you can pick apart the distinct sound. So by that you can tell that her music is a massive part of these games. It's one piece of the puzzle that makes them complete. So while her leaving FromSoftware is definitely some sad news to those that love her music, the fact that she will be a freelancer from now on means that you'll hear her music in more places. Now with that being said, it does raise the question of who's gonna take over after she's gone. Personally, I would really like to see Motoi Sakuraba return. He did the soundtracks of both Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2, which were absolutely phenomenal, and had several iconic tracks such as Firelink Shrine, Majula, and the Nameless Song. And those really cemented the feel of FromSoftware's music going forward. But I'm sure FromSoftware will have great taste in whoever they pick. With Kitamura leaving in August though, it does make me curious if her work was already done for the DLC. Now I don't know the exact steps of how game development works, but I would assume the music gets done simultaneously as the work on the actual game. I can't imagine that she would leave with unfinished business. So to me it also sounds like development might be getting to the final stages on the DLC if they're willing to let her go, but that is also assuming that she worked on the DLC at all. But ultimately time will tell on that one. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section though. Who would you like to see become the new lead composer at FromSoftware? I'm curious to read what y'all think. Our second big story of the day is that Dark Souls may be getting an anime adaptation, and this comes from the website Giant Freaking Robot. Now if you've been around the channel for a long time, that name might sound familiar, but let's go ahead and read through their article. Exclusive, Dark Souls anime in the works for Netflix. Netflix isn't giving up on anime adaptations just yet. Our trusted and proven sources tell us the streamer is developing an anime series based on the acclaimed video game Dark Souls. This could mark a new era for Netflix, as the Dark Souls anime would be one of the company's first truly original anime series. With no further information other than a plan for development, news on the upcoming Dark Souls anime on Netflix is sure to break soon. Once we know more about the series, we'll make sure to let you know. Now let me give a pretty big disclaimer here. Personally, I don't consider Giant Freaking Robot to be a trustworthy source. They've done these same reports for every single Souls game. Some of you may remember the HBO Bloodborne TV show, or the Demon's Souls movie that they reported on, neither of which ever happened. Now I'm not going to come out and say that they're making things up. After all, you have to understand the way these things work. What's probably going on is that they have somebody on the inside who gets in on pitch meetings, and I have no doubt that some of these ideas get thrown around. But it's a very small minority of these ideas that actually get into production, but they print these stories before those are finalized. Now, the fact that they are claiming that Netflix has this and it's going to be an anime may mean that it's past that stage. But when it comes to things like this, I'm not going to believe it until I see an official announcement. And I feel the same way about the Sekiro anime that was rumored. Even though that one did come from a very trustworthy source, one that has continued to be right since then, we still haven't heard anything since. And again, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, but personally when it comes to video game adaptations, until we have a trailer, I think they're more likely than not to fail and never actually make it to the screen. But let's explore this concept for a moment. I'm really not sure Dark Souls would make a great anime, because honestly it would have to set the record for the least amount of words spoken in a show ever. Now, a game like Sekiro that has established characters with personalities, I could see that, but unless they're going for the same kind of plot that the game has, then they'd have to introduce new characters to the show. And I wouldn't say it's impossible, but I do think it would be very hard to make that good and capture the same atmosphere that the game provides. But how would you see a Dark Souls anime going? Let me know. Also in the news, we finally have an update on Bluepoint Games, the studio behind the Demon Souls remake, who have been quiet for a very long time. It was reported by MBG that PlayStation Studio's status update shared the following details about Bluepoint Games. Their next game is labeled as original content and will not be a remake/remaster. However, it's not confirmed to be a new IP. The studio was at 70 employees in 2021 and is now up to 95, and the average developer experience is 15 years. So what does that mean and why is it important? Well, it has been heavily rumored for several years now that Bluepoint has been working on a Bloodborne project, but due to this new information, I think we can take a Bloodborne remake off the table, but that doesn't exclude a Bloodborne 2. Now, I've expressed many times that I've resigned myself to not believing any of the new Bloodborne rumors, because they all kind of end the same, that somebody else told somebody and nobody actually knows. But I do think Bluepoint news is going to be worth keeping an eye on until they announce their new project. Bloodborne isn't necessarily out of the picture, and regardless of how you felt about the Demon Souls remake, it does appear like they have a pretty stacked team. And for the last little bit of information I want to cover today, we need to talk about how successful Armored Core 6's marketing has been as of late. Over the past few weeks, it has finally been getting the marketing push it deserves. However, when it comes to its comparison with Starfield, which is probably going to be the game's biggest competitor for the time of its release, it is still trailing a bit behind. Now, the good news is that the Armored Core 6 gameplay is beating out the Starfield gameplay on YouTube by quite a large margin. However, if we compare them on the Steam top sellers list, Starfield is vastly ahead. And the same goes for Google Trends. It appears that more people are searching for Starfield much more than they are Armored Core. But I think what's going to be interesting here is that Armored Core is likely going to have much more word of mouth marketing. But what this means for the franchise as a whole is that Armored Core 6 is going to set a new standard and revival unlike any of the games that came before it. A lot of people are thinking Armored Core isn't going to sell very well, but I think they're going to be surprised. Anyways though guys, that is going to do it for the video today. A lot of small stories that didn't really warrant a full video on their own, but are still very much relevant to FromSoftware fans. But trust me guys, stay tuned for a video that's coming out later next week. You will very much want to see it, and so will all Souls fans. Either way though, if you enjoyed today's video, be sure to leave a like on it, and subscribe if you're new around here. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below, and with all that, I will catch you in the next one.